Welcome to Venture Step Podcast, where we discuss entrepreneurship, industry trends, and the occasional book review. In this episode, we're going to be doing a 2025 recap. That's right. We're going to be resurfacing topics that I spoke about all throughout last year that I think are important to bring back up. And maybe you might be curious and dive into that episode if you haven't listened to it prior. But this episode is going to be structured in themes. The first theme is going to be tech. The next theme is going to be related to literature takeaways. And then the last theme is going to be personal. Try to get the juicy stuff up front. And if you're still around, you can learn a little bit more about me. But before we dive in, I haven't done this in a while, but I'm your host, Dalton Anderson. Today's episode is special because it's a 1-year recap of 2026 or 2020. I'm in 2026 or 2025. I'm already time traveling. This is me from 2027 recording to pretend that I'm in 2026 for the episode that's in 2025. Regardless, this is a special episode, close to 2 years now on the podcast, consistently releasing episodes, which is incredible. Appreciate everyone's support and love how much the podcast is growing. It's impressive, the numbers. And yeah, just wanted to call out that I appreciate it. And it's awesome. Thank you for listening. That's it. But if you didn't know who I was, my name's Dalton. I come from insurance and have a technical background, data scientist. In my free time, I like to run, work out, cook, do all sorts of wacky stuff, and read. And I've been reading, but I just haven't done any book reviews. So I'm working on it. I've got an interesting book that I'm almost done with that I would love to share with the show. I'll be doing that soon, maybe in a couple weeks. Who knows? We'll see what we have on a guest schedule. Okay, so the first theme I said was tech. So let's get into it. So the first theme is about where we're at. And I think there's a couple things to talk about. The first one being it's becoming increasingly more difficult to discern what is real and what is not real. And that's coined the synthetic Rubicon. And once you cross it, then distrust is created, and it's really hard to understand what is going on. There are some initiatives to prevent this from being widespread, but in the future, there's going to need to be sophisticated validation of what is real and what is not real. And right now, photos are what's currently hard to discern, but eventually, pretty soon, probably within a year, we'll get to videos, and videos will be, once you get to videos and pictures, it's really hard to know what is up, what's down. Like, am I seeing a simulation? Is this podcast a simulation? And this is one of the main causes or reactional actions that I had about a video podcast, because I wanted to make sure that people knew that it was me and it wasn't some AI avatar speaking and everything being artificial, which will become a thing 100%. I bet podcasts and these social medias will get flooded with these AI generated folks, and it's going to be some kind of governmental agency that's running all the accounts. I mean, we've seen this before with Facebook pages or the top Twitter meme pages where Russian accounts or this, all sorts of crazy. I don't want to get so conspiracy theorists here, but we've seen it time and time again where if there's an ability to have influence and influence people, then large organizations or governments alike will take that opportunity to exert and extract the value. It's economics. I don't know. I mean, whether or not you think it's ethical or right, it's still going to happen unless there is clear guidelines and validation parameters to prevent these things from happening. So that's an interesting dynamic. Wondering how that's going to play out. The stuff that they are working on, which is great. I mean, some of the stuff that Google's created about having a synthetic key that's generated within the pixels. So the pixels, once the pixels are created, there's a synthetic key that's registered with Google. And so you could tell, or you could ask Google whether or not this is AI generated or not, if Google made it. And I think that they're trying to expand that into other image generators. But I think the problem that I talked about last time was if you make any edits to that image, or you rescale it, or you crop it, or make any edits to the pixels, then I'm pretty sure the code is lost. And so then it doesn't match the code that's in the registrar. And so then you don't match up. And so you wouldn't be able to tell if it was AI or not. So I think there's a couple things that need to get solved there. But I think the main thing to watch out for is this discernment factor, the lack of the ability to discern what is real and what is not real when it comes to images. And eventually we'll be getting to videos. There were some serious models coming out last year, or came out last year. The Sora 2 model and then the VO3 model were very good. Like the fact that they did voices, they had different accents, languages. They were incredible. Still not to the point. And they also incorporated physics models into the video, so that I think I had an example about somebody paddleboarding and then jumping off the paddleboard, and them understanding the shift of weight, the bend of the knees, and the water rippling before the jump, and then the jump causing a large ripple of the water, and then the person splashing causing a different type of ripple, and they combined, and then it's settled out. It's very detailed work. Something that wasn't a thing 2 years ago is now a thing. And before you know it, a year from now, it's going to be really hard to tell what's going on. So, not to be too loom and gloomy, but that was the uncanny valley section. The next section, it is something that I want to dive deep into, and I've experimented with myself, but I did an episode about how search is changing. And if you think about yourself, and if you're listening to this episode, you're probably experimental or curious, and you probably use AI to help you search things across the web or help you find items on the web for you. You're not the only one. And search is rapidly changing to the point where people are preferring and utilizing AI for search, predicted to trend to be like the primary search factor, form factor. Yeah. The primary form factor of search is AI search. With that changes how websites are structured, because websites always had these crawlers, and these crawlers would prioritize what websites that users would see first, and then how long those users stayed there would determine whether or not that was a valid suggestion, which would change the weight of the authority of that website, plus the backlinks, healthy backlinks, all this stuff. And that's how you get your ranking, your page ranking. That's not necessarily the same ball game as like generative search, like generative engine optimization versus search engine optimization, because you're no longer searching yourself. It's a computer. It's always been a computer, but you know what I mean. It's this AI agent that people like to call it. Anyways, that changes how the websites need to be structured, and the information needs to be much more detailed than a human would necessarily need, because AI wants all the information to understand the background, the context, the theories, the resources, the references, everything. And then it compiles it back to the user. Whereas the user would be turned off by that, having that much information. It would, I said it when it's the user, the human would rather have a more streamlined approach on providing information. And we're always taught to be direct, concise, and try not to overcomplicate things. Whereas the AI wants it to be complex, not too complex, but hierarchically complex, I would say, where it has information that it can pick and pull from, and it's able to understand the structure of the website from a sitemap. And then it's able to understand the structure of that web page, which you'd use hierarchical headings and bodies for AI to understand. What's really going to happen is you'd have to change how websites are structured. We're not saying like this, the website needs to be restructured. It's more of like you need to restructure your content, and you're optimizing for different things. Like, are you optimizing for references? Are you optimizing to be part of this AR search? Are you optimizing for authority to get referenced? Or do you want direct links? And those change what you're trying to do and how you want AI to incorporate your website or brand. It's a whole thing. I personally have incorporated this philosophy into my website, the one that has the Venture Step articles and the videos of the Spotify podcast. And I personally think it works. I structured it to be more AI friendly, and it was actually less work for me. I basically turned my podcast, almost said subscription, transcription to what I like to call a smart transcription. So it's a transcription that has little snippets, references, and quotes and sections that are hierarchical. And so when AI goes on there, it can look through everything and see what sections to look at and where to go and what it wants to do. And I have seen a meaningful uptick in unique visitors, given that I'm not optimizing for people, but AI. And I think that's fine. I don't necessarily care if humans are on there as much. It's just more or less getting people to search. And when they're searching, me getting brought up as potentially an option to listen to or read about, or little excerpts from here and there to help the guests that are on the show and help myself. That's all it is. It's fine. It's no big deal. But I personally think it works, and I think it's been going splendid. Okay. So the next theme is related to tech, but it's more related to the episode that I had about AI and the data centers and the GPUs used for the computing and training of AI models. And if you're not familiar with this, it was pretty insane, the environmental effects of the centers on some occasions. And I'll explain that in a second. And then also the shady under the table deals that the city/county had with these companies. And then the undisclosed water and electrical use that they put estimates down, but it wasn't necessarily clear to the city government that they would be using that amount of water or electricity. And I think they had a fairly good idea about the electricity piece, and that there was most of the time capital arrangements or agreements to increase the infrastructure capacity of the electrical grid due to the strain that their warehouse, or like where their data center would have on that area. What wasn't understood was the amount of water that they were going to use. And we really found out about all the water use through a breakthrough environmental investigation in, I'm pretty sure, Arizona, with Google's data center. And Google hadn't disclosed how much water they're going to use. Of course, no one was doing it. So like, oh, we don't need to do it either. And then there was these people researching this like water aquifer in Arizona, and it was draining way faster than it should because no one was using it. And they're like, well, what's going on here? Why, like, is the water leaking, or how are we losing so much water? And then they tracked it back to Google's operations, and they were like, what the heck? Like, our estimations are saying that you're using this much water. And they're like, yeah, about that. We're using a good amount of water. And they're like, you can't use this well. You can't do that. That's a no. And so I think they stopped doing that, and then they had some kind of agreement to get water somehow. But yeah, there was operations where it needed a lot of water, and they didn't disclose it. And then they're already in a water scarce area using a lot of water, which was brutal. And when I'm saying a lot of water, like, I mean, like, certain places, they're going into these rural towns and they're using like 60% of the water. Like, water usage is like 60% of the data center, and the rest of the people, like, insane volumes, like 800,000 gallons, like crazy stuff. And a lot of the water is wasted at that point because of the chemicals that it runs through. It's not just water. It's put into like a solution that prevents a corrosion and these other things, and lubricates the machinery that runs through. And so there is a lot of water instantly evaporated. And then the water that is left over is not usable, nor is it, I'm going to say potable, but I know that's wrong because my mom corrected me and now I forgot. It's not drinkable. Okay. So it's not drinkable water, and it's wasted, and a lot of it becomes water vapor. So the next question is, what about the environmental factors besides the water usage? Well, this interesting thing is, since these data centers are scaling so fast, and then electrical grid infrastructure typically takes a long time, they have created a workaround. And the loophole is like, okay, well, given that we can't get this, we already agreed to all these jobs, and we've already made our $1 billion investment, or however much it was, 500 million to a billion, multiple billions. They're like, well, we're going to need to get more electric capacity now, ASAP. And so the workaround is they just did turbines, diesel turbines, and they're massive. They're huge. They're like 3 stories by, like, I don't know, like 3 stories by 30 feet wide. I mean, they're really big. I was impressed how large these things are. And they're on back order, complete back order, because all these data centers are getting these turbines. And they're basically not up to environmental standards. And there was a huge issue where you have to get permits. There's special things you have to do. You've got to take the fumes out of the air because they're low atmospheric fumes, and it causes breathing issues, asthma, sickness, all sorts of things. And it's really bad to breathe in. And the big case on that was with Elon Musk's XAI data center in a already environmentally challenged area. They decided that they're going to do like an insane amount of turbines. I think 20. They got approval for like 2. And then they were like, okay, well, we got those, so let's do like 18. And at a certain point, they were running like 20 at once. And the environmental results came back and they were like, what's going on in this area? And then they did investigations after they told them that, hey, we're only running a couple, found out that they're running a lot of them. And then the sad part was the impact on some of the folks that were nearby, because it's been ongoing for some time, that they were sick, they're hospitalized, they've developed all sorts of breathing issues with breathing in these fumes. And so now they're all jacked up from the turbines. And it's just not cool. Like, some of the documentaries that I showed in that episode were pretty brutal. I try to be politically neutral, but I know people get pretty fired up when they hear Elon Musk. But regardless, I was pretty bummed out about the turbines and how they approached it. And they definitely could have been more tactical, for sure, and upfront. Let me get a drink of water real quick. My mouth is getting dry. All right. Well, I'm out of water, so keep that in mind. Okay. So then the last thing about this section that I think that would be interesting to dive into just briefly is I discussed in an episode the 200 billion insurance gap. These historical models that we're using to measure our data don't necessarily reflect what the current environment is. And there's been some recent refactoring of the models to help reflect this new world that we live in. But it's a really difficult situation given that everybody is getting squeezed. So the insurer wants cheaper prices. The reinsurance group wants like smarter risk selection. The MGA wants growth and profits. The carrier wants growth and profits. And no one wants to really give an inch. And they all want to take a mile. And so there's just, and then you've got the watch groups, and then you've got the regulators all tussling once among each other. And it just causes massive issues about this situation that is really boiling to the surface. And then the last thing is, like, there's not a lot of incentive for the insured to harden. There's not a lot of incentive for the insurance company to get the insured to harden. And so then you're kind of stuck in the middle. It's like, okay, well, your risk sucks. And they're like, hey, I know, I don't know what to do about it. And then the insurance company is like, well, let me know when you know, and when you fix the problem. And so there's a big push with companies trying to provide insight on what to fix and how to fix it, and providing resources to fix it. And then there's also private / public funding, like private funding at reduced rates, and then public funding from grants with your state if you invest into your home to reduce your risk. But just overall, there's just problems in the whole industry. Like, why are we developing on land that constantly floods? Like the situation in Florida, like massive flooding and homes being just absolutely decimated, apartments, complexes, all sorts of stuff. If it consistently floods, it's in the floodplain. Build a park. Do that for activities, soccer fields, football fields, tennis courts, whatever it may be, community activities. Cool. And then repurpose the land. Doesn't need to be some kind of beach house / like multi-use area. Okay. The next piece is related to AI and trying to get value out of AI. And I've been hearing this a lot, is we need AI ROI, return on investment on this AI, baby. We need ROI. And so we're out of the experimental phase and we're into the implementation / pushing for ROI. And something that was pushing for ROI was Instacart's AI implementation of AI pricing. And it went from value of service to willingness to pay. And they were trying to minimize customer surplus, and they were dynamically changing the price in the same geographic area depending on how much you liked the brand, how urgent the request was, whether you were disabled and had less mobility than somebody who was not. All of those put together created your maximum extraction value for every product that you were shopping for, which, to be frank, is pretty messed up. But that's why they got fined $60 million from the FTC when the article came out. Like literally 3 days later, FTC was like, boom, here's $60 million. Please pay at the end of the day. Okay. Moving more personal. SUS Learnings, which is the startup school, wanted to share, and I'll just read this because I don't want to mess it up. And I have my notes on this page. Okay. So 7 recipes for generating ideas. Start with what your team is especially good at and think of ideas that take advantage of your expertise. Look into ideas in your idea space and leverage your expertise, and you will automatically have product founder fit. Start with a problem you have personally encountered, have unique insights for. Think of things you personally wished existed. Look for things in the world that have changed recently that might have created a new opportunity. Look for new variants of successful companies. Go and talk to people and ask them what problems they have. Look for a big industry that seems broken. In the bonus idea, find a co-founder with a good idea. But you should really iterate through idea or recipes 1 through 2. Yep. So that was the section about generating ideas. I just thought I would share that. I think that was a good framework for generating ideas. Even if you're not trying to do a startup or found a company, what about at your company? What about at your position? What are things at your position that you are exceptionally good at? And then what are things that you could leverage your expertise within your company? Generate value, and then your company will tell you and also give you more knowledge, better financial outcomes for yourself. It's simple. Like if you provide a lot of value, you'll get compensated for it. And if you don't get compensated for it, then you can go somewhere else and get compensated for what the value you're bringing. Simple. But I did think that would be good to add to this show so that you have it and that the world can have it. It's not mine. It's from the startup school. They offer the course for free. Once again, you don't need to be an inspiring founder. You just need to be curious. And it does have a lot of great life advice. And if you take the owner approach at your company, you will be recognized. And if you're not recognized, eventually you will be recognized by somebody else because you'll just be better at everything. Like you would be more self-confident. You would articulate yourself. Like I think when you're self-confident in your abilities and feel that you are adding a lot of value, that will resonate through the way you speak, the way you act, the way you hold yourself, your new ideas. You'll get more excited, more robust with the ideas you'll come out with. And before you know it, you've blossomed into a new human. So I encourage you to build, explore, and be curious about the world and the people around you, and especially people at your company. All right, moving on. So the next section is literature. Literature. And this is probably my book of the year for 2025. And this is The Hard Things. Hard Things. Man, now I'm blanking on it. That's crazy. Hard Things about. All right. Yeah, I was going to say The Hard Thing About Hard Things, but I was messing it up. I was going to say Hard Things About Hard Thing, but it's The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz. Ben Horowitz, amazing book, brilliant. I loved it. Loved the book. It was, for me, book of the year of 2025. Book of the year for sure. And in 2025, I was able to read a couple books, and that was my favorite. So Ben Horowitz, he was CEO, and he was one of the famous wartime CEOs. And there's wartime and there's peacetime. But Ben was someone who led a company through multiple pivots, multiple hard times, an IPO, the whole 9 yards. And Ben had many challenges, and he explained how he dealt with them in the book, and he was able to offer advice, frameworks, and overall how you should think about and attack problems, how you should lead an organization, how you should present yourself. Great book. But one of my favorite sayings wasn't even from Ben. It was from Ben's CFO at one of his companies. And I don't even remember the person's name. I'm sorry. But the saying of the year is, if you're going to eat shit, don't nibble. And it was from a boardroom meeting when they were having issues with their estimated earnings against their first quarter on their IPO. And if you're not familiar, you pretty much bake in the value, the speculative value of the stock price with your earnings, and your first earnings are most important. And so if you don't perform on your first earnings call and your earnings report, it's like, okay, well, you said you were going to do all these things and you're failing on the first report. What's going on? This company is not what they say they are. And then the stock tanks, which is fair because you don't have any historical performance and you're new on the block, so people don't trust you. So they are running into earnings issues, and they had the decision to don't deal with it until later and kind of chip away at it and make excuses and slowly eat the poop in this scenario. Or they could just grill up a full-on shit sandwich, eat the whole thing all at once, which is great advice. Like, if you're going to have to eat bad food, like if you cooked your food and it sucks, why would you want to eat it for 6 days, a little bit at a time? It's just gross. I know every day you're eating bad food. What if you just ate all your food all at once? And it is related to a project management task methodology called Eat the Frog. Do your worst thing first. But in this scenario, it's like, don't make excuses. Don't put it off. Don't try to minimize the fallout of what is going to happen anyways. Just do it all at once, get it over with, pull the Band-Aid off, move on. And it's a great saying, and it has a lot of meaning. And it was funny, one of my colleagues, John, had recently had to deal with some stuff, and he was like, I got one of those days. If you're gonna eat shit, don't nibble. And I was like, legendary saying, man. But just a great book. Highly suggest it. Okay, the next one was The Accountability Mirror and the 40% Rule by David Goggins' book, You Can't Hurt Me. So David has this thing that he talks about, two things, the 40% rule and the accountability mirror. 40% is just like when you're really feeling it and you want to give up, you got about another 40%, which is kind of crazy to think about, but I think it's true. A lot of people don't push themselves hard enough. And when it does get hard, people are like, this is too hard. I need to give up. Maybe give up is the wrong word, but I need to give in to my thoughts. And well, that can create, to be frank, a weak mind where you are not in control. Someone else is in control of you. And it's not you, it's your subconscious. And your subconscious has insecurities, some kind of blocked, childhood memories, whatever it may be, that you're not really in control of those things as much as you are with your mind. And there's some parts of their subconscious that you can control, but I mean, it's your subconscious. Like, you don't necessarily have full control over it. But in your mind, what you can control how you operate in your personal space. And if you remember correctly, on one of my books that I talked about, on these stoicism books, is your personal space is your mind. Your mind is your personal space. That's your only place where no one else can hurt you, at least for now. I'm sure 20 years from now, they'll be able to like throw some kind of sticky thing on your mind and fry your brain, like hack into your brain. But that's not a problem we have to worry about now. Right now, personal space is your mind. No one can control or hurt you within your mind. So that's what he's saying. It's like you, when you're tired, when you want to give up, when you're not in it, when you don't want to record a podcast, like right now. And I'm not saying I didn't want to be here, but I definitely didn't want to record the podcast today. It's like, I got all this other stuff I got to do. I have 40%. I got so much more energy. I've got so much to give you guys. I could give everybody. She can have some. He could have some. We're all good. I got plenty of energy. When I'm at 0, I've got another 40. So that's a general concept of the 40% rule. And the accountability mirror it's just like holding yourself accountable and being mean and being blunt to yourself. Like, if you're fat, you're fat. And you either decide that you want to change it or you don't. If you are disappointed with yourself and you think that you're not smart, you're probably right. Go do something about it. If you're bad at cooking, you're bad at cooking. Just admit it. Move on. Do something about it. But don't sit there and complain to people, oh, my life sucks. I can't believe it. I got laid off my job again. Or, oh, man, in this generation, there's no good partner around. Okay. You sure about that? Because there's millions of married people. There's millions of people in relationships. What are you talking about? And it's just like, hold yourself accountable. Don't say these things and then complain to people or complain to yourself, woe is me, when you're the problem. You are the problem. You control yourself. You control how you feel about yourself. You control all of these things. It's all in your mind. Hold yourself accountable. It's simple. It's so simple that if you have a problem, just attack it. And you don't have to do all of it at once. Like, if you're out of shape, don't try to run a marathon the next day. Be reasonable with yourself. But I think the first step is holding yourself accountable and recognizing where you're at and where you need to go and closing the gap. But that's a crucial thing, because a lot of people, they'll tell you, oh, your resume's great. Don't worry about it. Oh, great episode, Dalton. Phenomenal. You're such a great speaker. You're so good. Okay. What do I do with that? Oh, don't worry about it. Your episode, awesome. It's so good. You're the best. Or, oh, that business idea, that's amazing. Like people are worried about chat GPT or these AI chats from being too positive, but then they have these people around them that don't tell them how it is. I think that's the true reflection of a friend, is someone who legitimately has coarse and frank correspondence with their colleagues slash friends. Yeah, I try to find another word. Amigos. There we go. Amigos. Because if not, you're just in this bubble world and everyone is just bubbling around each other and no one's really having any friction and feedback. And there's no way for you to improve if you can't see it and then other people don't tell you. Because there's some of the flaws you have you don't necessarily recognize unless somebody points them out. It's just true. Like it might be the way you run, it might be the way you eat your food or cut your knife or whatever it may be. You don't know everything. I mean, you're having a hard time. A lot of people have hard times with correcting themselves with things they know about, not necessarily things that they don't know about. So I think that's the first step, is just holding yourself accountable and making it clear on what is the goal and attacking that and recognizing what you need to work on. Okay, so my personal reflections. I'm super thankful to be here. When I moved to New York City, I was very excited. I was starting a monster chapter in my life that I'd prepared for a long time, and I was exhilarated. And I had a lot of things going on, a lot of things planned, and I was ready for them. It just didn't work out. It just didn't work out. I got really sick. I lost 30 pounds. My clothes didn't fit. Not the like the bones in my back were visible. My ribs were showing out, like basically out of my shirt. Like I was skinny, skinny, skinny. And I'd lost my ability to be mobile. I'd lost my confidence to walk around, run, work out, lost my energy levels. I lost my interest in pursuing other things. I lost my spark. Food didn't taste very good. It was bland. Life was dull. My hormones were all jacked up. My hair was falling out. I had to go to the hospital. I mean, I had all sorts of problems after I got sick, and it took me a long time to get better. Like after I wasn't sick anymore, I had to take 1 month off of work, which is insane. And then from there, I couldn't work for hours at a time. I could only work at like the first week, I'd only work at like 45 minutes at a time. And then I have to like lay down because I would get too sick or something. So all these things, and me having to consume like rice for like a month afterwards. So like 2 months I was eating rice and no other foods, like rice and bread, which sucked. No salt, no nothing, no cheese, no dairy, no milk. I missed milk so much. I was worried I wasn't going to be able to drink milk anymore, because that's like one of the things. Like if you mess up your stomach really bad, I had vertigo, my stomach was all jacked up, you can lose your ability to drink milk. And I would have been super bummed. I'm a big milk guy. Love milk. Recently discovered, I think it's called baby chai, which is a little more milk. It's really good. I was impressed, but I'm just really happy to be here. I'm back. I've got the spark, the fire for life. I've got bounds. I'm bounds of energy that I've just, pull out another one and I just, bam, I've got another 40% times 4. I'm everywhere. I am everything. I'm just messing around, but I just have a lot more energy and just joy and want and desire for life than I did 5 months ago, for sure. And I'm super thankful to be back, and I feel mentally stronger than I did prior. I was just surprised how long it took me to feel good again, which it is what it is. You can't plan for these things. You can only react to them. And I felt that I reacted very well. It's just the next step. The next step is getting serious about my future, getting serious about myself, my pursuits, my dreams, doing that in the city of dreams. Yeah. I couldn't name a better place. So I just got to lock in, do the things I need to do, execute my plan, and everything will fall into place. I will it into existence. That I can assure you. Well, I appreciate you listening in to this episode. And of course, wherever you are, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for listening in, and talk to you next week. Goodbye.